Well, welcome everyone. I know some people are still coming in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon and good morning. Thank you all for your interest in GFLI Branded Data, first of all, and for taking the time to join us for today's webinar. The webinar is being recorded, and we will share it with you afterwards. We ask that you hold your questions until the Q&A session, which is at the end after all the speakers have presented. You can ask your questions in the chat or verbally during that session, but feel free to go ahead and put any questions that you have in the chat whenever they occur to you. Then we'll go through them in order received at the end. If you would like to ask a question verbally, or you need to clarify something from something you sent in the chat, please raise your hand, and then normally Claudia will be able to unmute your mic. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I will first introduce the speakers. I'll start with myself. So I'm Delaney Kellen, Executive Director of GFLI. I've been with the Institute almost 8 years now, having joined back when GFLI was still a project, so not formally legally established as a nonprofit. And I will just give a brief introduction about what GFLI is and what the database is, and why we decided to make it possible for companies to calculate GFLI compliant product specific data sets, as opposed to populating the database only with the secondary data. And then I will give the floor to my colleague, Claudia Moosen, who has worked with the GFLI Secretariat for the past 2 years, supporting GFLI in many areas, including coordinating the Technical Management Committee, and also as coordinator of our Branded Data program. And she is the one who is responsible for guiding the companies, individuals through the branded data process. So she's your main point of contact when you're ready to work on branded data, or you're interested in finding out more about it. She will exactly what and how it can be beneficial for a company, and importantly, how the branded data process actually works. And then we are very fortunate to have firsthand experience. We have Enzo Balestra from InnovaFeed with us today to share his experience actually going through the branded data process with us. And Enzo has been with InnovaFeed since 2022, working as Chief of Staff and Impact Manager. He coordinates and steers the company's sustainability initiatives, focusing on carbon reduction, biodiversity, supply security, and socioeconomic impact. And he coordinates and steers he led InnovaFeed's GFLI branded data process to ensure that the company's LCA data was successfully calculated and audited and approved. And he has noted that this milestone for the company was really crucial, as it provided a globally recognized third-party validation of InnovaFeed's positive environmental impact. And that's exactly what the purpose and the goal of the Branded Data project is within GFLI. So we're happy to hear from Enzo about his experience. And so then, as I mentioned, after these 3 presentations, we're happy to field any questions that you have. So I will start by explaining what GFLI is. And I just realized that I didn't write out the full name, but GFLI stands for the Global Feed LCA. And GFLI was established in 2019. Formally, I mentioned it was a project for about 4 years before that, but it was established as an independent nonprofit institute with the specific mandate to provide a globally accessible and evolving, so not a static, but an evolving and continuously improving animal feed ingredient LCA database. And that, in order to make it possible to calculate credible and transparent environmental assessments of feed ingredients, as well as to be able to assess the role of these feed ingredients in the overall environmental footprint of animal-derived products. and also to foster the continuous improvement of the environmental performance of the feed sector, as well as that of the actors and sectors farther down the value chain. And I think then now I'll explain a bit more about what exactly the database is. So the database itself was created, there's the Institute of GFLI that manages the database, but the database itself was created in order to populate with the LCA data that's needed for feed, livestock, aquaculture, and really in other sectors. So for example, pet food sector, to use data, LCA data that's based on a harmonized methodology, and can be used to calculate the environmental footprint of products in a transparent and trustworthy way. And this is really the whole point of the founding of GFLI, was to make sure that the data is comparable and harmonized, and that people feel confident in using it, and that they can trust the information behind it in terms of how it was calculated. This transparency then means that the data can be used to set benchmarks, and this can be used for in-house analyses and improvements. And it's also, as I mentioned, it's possible to make meaningful comparisons. Meaningful comparisons because in the past, before GFLI was created, there was feed data available from many different databases, but it was all calculated based on different methodologies. It wasn't necessarily fully transparent which background data was used, which emission models were used, et cetera. So it was basically impossible for there to be comparisons with a benchmark or comparisons between products. So this kind of insight about the environmental footprint of a product really allows the companies to make sustainable decisions and improvements, and ultimately trade-off analyses that they need to make. The goal is for this data to help the feed be produced with a lower environmental footprint, and then, of course, contribute to lowering the environmental footprint of any food products that are made down the chain. And then I'd like to explain a bit about how GFLI started with the idea to include this branded data. So as I mentioned, GFLI was originally established to provide high quality secondary data. And it was originally we were focused on maintaining and expanding the data calculated following our baseline methodology. So that's average data, sometimes it's based on statistics as well, but also industry averages for different sectors in different regions of the world. So, and our baseline methodology is based on the Food and Agriculture Organization's LEAP guidance. So that LEAP is the Livestock Environmental Assessment and Performance Partnership. Their guidance documents on feed, and also later on feed additives, and as well as the EU product environmental footprint category rules for feed. So those 2 or 3 overall guidance documents are the ones that form the basis for our data calculation methodology. So we were working away on that, and then in our technical management committee was established, and I think first met in January of 2021. And so this is our TMC is made up of experts who are nominated by our members to serve on a technical council that really looks over the database, making sure that the quality is maintained, and thinking about the methodological aspects that we need to consider to improve and expand the data. And that we started having discussions because we started hearing from companies who were interested in providing data based on their own products, because they were looking at the average data and our baseline data, which they found very helpful for their internal process analyses, but they realized that they had a really good story to tell about their specific products, and they wanted to be able to share their footprint with their customers, but their customers were giving them feedback that they wanted to be able to compare and trust the methodology that the companies were using. So they said that they would like it to be GFLI verified. At the same time, we were receiving requests from data users that wanted to see this kind of product and company-specific data for the same reasons, to help for them to be able to support their sourcing decisions. So the TMC and the Secretariat embarked on discussions on how to develop a methodology that would go beyond, that would be more rigorous in terms of the data quality, that would go beyond the secondary data that makes up our baseline methodology. We had discussions with our Scientific Advisory Council about the first or maybe second, the one of the draft versions of the branded data methodology. Our Scientific Advisory Council is made up of independent experts from research institutions and universities, but also from the FAO LEAP Secretariat and the European Commission's group working on the product environmental footprint category rules. So we got a lot of good feedback from them. We improved the methodology further and then eventually published the first version in October of 2023. There was a pilot phase. Actually, before that we published that first version, we went through a pilot testing phase and again improved the methodology based on the experience of the pilot testers. After the submission was officially open for branded data in July of 2024, I believe now we have 13 companies that have gone through the full process, but Claudia will correct me if that's not quite right. But that's the process that we went through to decide that this is something that would be valuable for data providers as well as data users. So with that, I will give the floor to Claudia to get into the specifics of what branded data is and how it works.
Yes, thank you, Delaney. Thank you for the introduction. So I'll give a bit more information about what branded data is, why do we even have branded data, and how does the process of branded data application work. So first of all, what is branded data exactly? It's an assessment and a life cycle inventory, or LCI, for a particular feed ingredient. And the unique thing about branded data is that it's marketed under a certain brand or a company, or it's owned by a company. So GFLI developed the branded data for interesting companies that would like to perform an environmental assessment on their specific products. And for this environmental assessment, we have the GFLI methodology, which provides the guidelines in order to calculate the LCA in correct order. And the methodology is also, as Delaney already mentioned, also aligned with some international regulations. So the difference between branded data and sectoral data sets, like what makes branded data, that's mainly because it's for branded data, company-specific values are used. We're relying on more primary data instead of using sectoral or regional averages, because for sectoral data sets, more statistical averages are used. And for branded data, it's very important to also have a larger amount of primary data or adapted secondary data. And this also increases the representativeness of the data sets. So overall, we can say that branded data has higher requirements for the data quality, and the quality of the data is also higher compared to sectoral data sets. So why do we have branded data? The LCA world is quite complex, and GFLI tries to make it easier for companies to move through the whole LCA world. So GFLI has the database in which for different feed ingredients the emissions are available, and we think it's very important to have a database that's applicable worldwide. So each company, wherever you are in the world, should be able to use our database and find the environmental impact information they would like to have for a particular feed ingredient. So currently there's an importance of having communication within your supply chain. So it's important for companies, for feed companies, to communicate with their suppliers, to have a better overview, a full picture of what the environmental impact of a particular feed ingredient is throughout the whole supply chain. Also, there's a higher demand or need for representative data, which also can be provided via branded data, because there's more use of primary data, which is more representative. And also branded data can be used for your sustainability reporting. Because we are aligned with international regulations, the branded data can be used to your sustainability reporting, for example, for the CSRD. And the last thing that I want to mention about branded data is that that our branded data is aligned with the GFLI methodology. So we make sure that within the animal feed sector, the same method is used for all of the data sets for the different feed ingredients. So I would like to give a bit more information about what an LCA is for those who aren't familiar with LCAs. LCA stands for Life Cycle Analysis, and it basically includes all environmental impacts of a particular feed ingredient throughout the whole life cycle. And I included a really simplified example for this. Here you can see as an example the soybean meal, which is cultivated. The soybean is cultivated in Brazil. Therefore, we need fertilizers and machinery. And these two have a particular input and an environmental. They have some. These inputs have an environmental impact, which is also included in the LCA of the whole soybean meal. So after soybean is cultivated, it is transported to the manufacturer. Now, therefore, we need fuel, we need energy, and during transport, during processing, among other emissions, CO2 is released into the air. And these outputs should also be included into the whole LCA calculation. So eventually, your end product is the soybean meal. And in this example, so all the inputs and the outputs should be part of your LCA to have a full overview of all emissions that are related to the production of soybean meal. So after all this data is collected from all these different parts within your supply chain and within your whole system boundary, the LCI can be created, which is the life cycle inventory, and the output of the LCA within GFLI is the different values for each environmental impact category. And some examples of an impact category is, for example, water use or land use, climate change. And this LCA gives you the opportunity to evaluate in which part of your whole process feed ingredients has a better impact on the environment, or where you could improve something. So the LCA gives insight into the whole process and which emissions are released. And it helps to provide making more sustainable choices for your company. So why do we support branded data? I already mentioned it a little bit. First of all, for companies, it gives more insight into your own emission. It also gives insight in your supply chain, as you need all information from the different suppliers. And based on that, you can also make some more sustainable choices, or on where you're sourcing your products from. And as already mentioned, the branded data can be used for your sustainability reporting, because we have the international recognized methodology. So the methodology is uniform. All data in our database is calculated using the same uniform method, and that also allows allows a company to compare their branded data product towards other ingredients in in the GFLI database. So, for example, you can compare your branded data product towards an average in the GFLI database, and see how well you are performing, or whether you could make some improvements in some places. And this also helps you to achieve your sustainability goals. And last but not least, you can use the branded data for marketing and communication. So now I would like to continue with the branded data process. What does it look like? So branded data process can be divided in 3 phases, I would say. So first of all, the preparation, data collection, data modeling, and applying for branded data. After the first phase, we have the reviewing phase, and lastly, we have the publication phase. So in the first phase, it's important to define your data in project. So GFLI has a project proposal available, which you can see in the screenshot on the right. And this project proposal can be used to define your branded data in project. You can fill in all the information, see what you're still missing, and it makes the company think really good about the choices they made, and whether you have already all data available or whether you still need some data. So after the project proposal is filled in, we would also like to receive it. We can give some feedback on it, and then you can collect the data. So for the data collection, it's important to have your own company-specific data available. So that's your primary data, and also the data from the different suppliers within your supply chain. So it's really important to have all this information available, gather the data from your suppliers, get in touch with your suppliers, and see which data you can receive from them. And using all these data, we can create all information for the system boundary. Within GFLI, we handle the cradle to gate system boundary. And what is really important for branded data is that it should be mainly based on primary data. Adapted secondary data is also allowed, because we do understand that it's not possible to have 100% primary data. That's just not achievable. And after all data is collected, the data needs to be modeled according to the GFLI methodology, and the activity data should also be linked to other background data. And if you're a smaller company or you don't have a big sustainability department, we really advise to find an LCA consultant of your own choice. They can help you with the data collection and the data modeling, because it can be quite challenging to find all data and model it correctly. So step 3 and 4 are filling in the application form to apply officially for branded data and sign the license agreement. Step 1 till 4 is, I mentioned it in this order, but it is not mandatory to do it in this order. It's also fine to fill in the application form first, or already have your data collected before you even fill in the project proposal, for example. We don't have a strict, the order can be adjusted. And from step 5 onwards, the order of the steps is really defined. So after all data is collected, it's modeled, we would like to receive the data so we can perform the internal review. GFLI has its own LCA consultant to perform the review. And during the review, we will check whether all information is in accordance with the GFLI methodology. If there are any questions from our side, we will get in touch with you or with the LCA consultant to discuss some remaining questions and improve the quality of the data to make sure that everything is aligned with GFLI. And after the internal review, you will receive an internal review statement from us. So after the internal review, we also value an external review. And we have a list on our website with different external reviewers. They're all LCA consultants, and they're all familiar with GFLI and with the GFLI methodology. And also with the external review guidance document, so they can perform the external review, and the statement should be shared with us so we can prepare the letter of confirmation. And the letter of confirmation verifies that the data sets you applied for are indeed aligned with GFLI. And this letter of confirmation can also be used for communication with the customers to show them that your data sets are indeed verified by GFLI. And the last step is optional, that is the database integration. It's possible to have your branded data sets published into the GFLI database. We would really like to have the data published because then we can expand our database and make it grow even more. And then the last thing about the process I would like to mention are the prices. The prices depend on the number of data sets you apply for, and it depends on whether you're already a member or whether you're a non-member. And in the price in this price, the GFLI support is included. We included the internal review, also the feedback on the LCA study, and the integration of a dataset into the GFLI database. And I would like to point out that the external review isn't included in the price. That's something that needs to be discussed with the external reviewer. So then I would like to mention the companies that already went through the branded data process and have their products verified by GFLI. Delaney mentioned that there are 13 of them, but it's actually 12, but that's not that big of a difference. So some of the types of ingredients that we already have for branded data are vegetable oils, soybean meal and other soybean products, insect products, and also feed additives. And we're really happy to say that since January, the branded data is also included into our database. And we now have over 50 branded data sets already available in the GFLI database. And there are still multiple companies going through the process right now. So we hope to further expand the number of branded data sets into our GFLI database. So if you're interested in applying for branded data, or if you would like to combine membership with branded data, please just email me and we'll get in touch to discuss all the possibilities.
Good. Thank you so much, Claudia, for such a clear review of all the details. I have to say it's much easier to hear you explain it than to read through the whole methodology and procedures document. Not to say that people shouldn't read it, but do feel free to contact Claudia if you've been going through the methodology and procedures for this and you're not sure how to proceed, because clearly she can make it break it down for you. So now to hear from someone who has firsthand insights on going through this process, I'll give the floor to you, Enzo.
Hi, thanks to both of you. Hello, everybody. So I'm Enzo Baestra. I work for InnovaFeed. InnovaFeed is an insect producer, meaning that we produce insect in order to then produce animal feed ingredients, serving both aquaculture, pet food, but also monogastric production. Before entering into the detail of what we do, why we wanted to participate to this branded data process, and maybe the hurdles or the feedbacks, the advice that I can give on the process. A few words on myself. So I work as impact manager and chief of staff at InnovaFeed, meaning that I coordinate all the activities regarding impact, so carbon, biodiversity, socio-eco impact, and supply security. And if we look at the company, so InnovaFeed has been founded in 2016. It's a global biotech and agtech company. We are about 300 employees. what we do, so we have 3 products, and it's key because we applied for the branded data for the 3 products. So we have protein meal, oil, and frass, which is a fertilizer. Our process is a bit specific and is really unique if we compare InnovaFeed to the other insect producers. And it's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this branded data, because we wanted to promote our unique positive impact. So we typically have what we call the industrial symbiosis model, enabling us to save carbon comparing to a typical insect producer. So typically we reuse waste energy and also agricultural byproducts directly through pipes. So we are connected to our 2 main suppliers, and these connections enable us to save up to 70% of the carbon. And it's quite key. So it's one of the reasons, as I said, why we apply to branded data, because when we see typically insect producers' emissions, it varies a lot depending on the production system that they have. And what was key for us was to value and to demonstrate to our ecosystem the real impact of our company and to differentiate ourselves versus competitors and also conventional ingredients. So if we deep dive more into carbon and into life cycle analysis, so InnovaFeed journey with life cycle analysis started in 2020. We did a first life cycle analysis with Quantis, a consultancy company focused on carbon topics. So they helped us building our LCA, and it's quite key. And I think Claudia mentioned it, but it's really saving time to have a consultant. So it can be Quantis, but there are many companies helping on this. It's quite important to have someone helping you getting the data, helping you on the modeling, especially if you are a mid-sized company, not a large company with a lot of resources internally. It's quite important to have help on this to be sure that the methodology is rigorous and is reliable. So we did all this exercise with Quantis in 2020 in order to develop the model and then to update it frequently with the real life data. However, even if we had this data done with external support, and Quantis is quite recognized on the market and renowned on the market, so we already had, I would say, this stamp of having Quantis building the data, our customers were still asking for more confirmation on the data, meaning that they wanted our data to go through an audit process. And GFLI actually was mentioned quite often by our customers, both in aquaculture and the food industry. So we decided to go for the branded data process in 2024. So actually almost 2 years now, in September 2024, and we launched our process in September. We went through the different steps that Claudia mentioned, meaning sending the data to GFLI. Then we got the internal review with one of the auditors, the internal auditors from GFLI. We had 2 Q&A sessions with him, and we identified some missing points on our methodology. So we had typically to refresh our LCA with Quantis, to adapt a bit, first to update some data that we have in our LCA, but also to adapt the format in which the LCA was built, meaning that to be certified by GFLI, you need to have the right format in your LCA, meaning that you need different methodology, recipe, PF 3.1, etc. So you need to check the methodology requirements, and we are missing some parts, so we had to refresh our LCA. It took us a few months to do it and to do it properly. So after these few months, we restarted again the process with the internal reviewer who accepted and validated our data. And from there, we then launched the external audit with an external auditor, Aqua Nutrition in Canada, who went through the data and confirmed that our data was conform to the GFLI methodology. So if we take a step back, we initiated the process in September 2024, and we ended it in end of the year 2025. It was a long process for us because we had to refresh our life cycle analysis, so we had to update our model. However, we were in close contact with Claudia and the auditor from GFLI in order to improve the data. So it was, of course, a bit long, but yet we were, we are still, we are not nowhere in the process. So, and thanks to Claudia for keeping us updated on the process. If we look at during all this process, we learned a lot of things, and maybe few advices that we can give for you on the process. First is, I already said it, but to be accompanied and to have either a consultancy company or just a consultant to help you to get the model built, and to compare, if you already have a model, to compare the requirements from the branded data methodology with what you have. And you have a full PDF file that you can find online on which you have all the requirements for the methodology. So you can already go and check if your model check all boxes or not. Then, once this is done, I would advise you to directly contact GFLI to start the audit process, so that you can already send the LCI, so the Excel file, the model, to the auditor to get him or her already checking the data and sending you a first list of questions, so that you already know how to improve your data. And also, internally, we didn't use CIMA Pro, which is a tool used by a LCA consultant to model LCA data. So I think it's good if the consultant you use this software, because typically all the auditors are used with this software, and it will make you save time. Typically, we had to rebuild our model in a CIMA Pro to get it audited, and to make sure it match all the formats needed by GFLI. So if you don't have it, it's not. I think it's not a prerequisite, but it's better to have it. Then I would definitely advise you to go through the resources available on GFLI website. So you have the methodology guide, but you also have the list of auditors. You have all the process steps, which has been described in this webinar. But if you still after this webinar, you can have access to the different steps and understand how much steps you need to go through to finish the process. Also, what you can do is, as soon as you have initiated the internal audit with the GFLI auditor, you can, as soon as you understand that your data will be, is in good shape to be approved, you can already get in contact with external auditors, because it's to the company to get the contract and to find the auditor. So you have a list which is a full list depending on the sector in which you operate. You have a full list of auditors. So it's good when you know you are in good shape to be audited by GFLI and to be certified by the internal auditor. You can already launch the external audit process, meaning that you can contact all the auditors and get quotes from them and make sure they are available in the timing you want to do your audit. Make sure they are available to go through your data. And typically for us, the external audit took a few weeks because we were proactive on it and we did all the contractualization and all the planning work before and in parallel of the internal audit. So it made us save a bit of time on this. And maybe I would definitely recommend this process, especially if you are in an industry, a novel ingredient industry, in which there are a lot of different data points regarding carbon impact. It's really help in a sense that you can show and communicate to your customers, to your supplier, to the full value chain, where you stand in terms of carbon. And typically the GFLI certification is recognized, especially in the animal feed, and it stops a lot of discussion regarding the quality of the data and the quality of your LCA model and results. So happy to take any questions. It was more to give an overview, but a detailed question on the process or InnovaFeed LCA.
Great, thank you so much, Enzo. This is, I think, extremely helpful to have your suggestions and tips that you have for potential future participants. There are already a couple of questions in the chat that we'll start with, but please do go ahead and put your question in the chat. I think the first one from Peter Bunce may have been a bit answered by Enzo, but we can go into more detail. Peter's asking, what if we already have an LCA for our product? What is the process and cost to get GFLI certified and added to get it GFLI certified and added to the database? So I think Enzo alluded to what they needed to do to adapt the LCA that they already had. But maybe Claudia, I'll just ask if you can give any guidelines for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you already have your LCA for the product, you can skip the step of data collection and modeling, and contact us so we can provide you with the application form and send you the license agreement. And then we can start the internal review. And during the internal review phase, we will check whether the LCA of your product is already complete or whether there's some adjustments should be made. So if you already have your LCA, your full LCA, please contact me and I will send over the files to you and the steps to follow to continue with the process. And for the costs, I will get back a couple of slides. Here you can find the cost. So it really depends on the number of data sets you're applying for, or the ingredients as it's listed here. So up to 5 ingredients is for members 3,000 euros, and for non-members it's 5,000 euros. Important to note is that this applies for ingredients that are of the same type. So they should have a less or more similar production process. And if these are 2 completely different ingredients, then the cost may be higher because the internal review will take more time. But that's something that we should discuss with our LCA consultant to find a suitable price. But from my experience, most of the ingredients are within the same type, so you can use this table as a reference. Oh, and I saw also a question about I will also answer the question about the external review. So GFLI doesn't have insight in how much it exactly costs. I think it also depends on the number of ingredients. But our experience is that it should be from 2,000 euros for one ingredient up to 10,000 euros. But I would really recommend to find some of the LCA consultants that we listed on their website and ask them for the costs, because it can really vary between different external reviewers.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Claudia.
Oh, and Delaney, I would like to say that I unmuted. Everybody has the opportunity to unmute themselves to also ask questions or respond to a question.
Okay, great. Thanks, Claudia.
I found the button.
We thought we could do it, but now it's confirmed. So yeah, so if you would rather follow up with an answer that Claudia has already given, or ask your question verbally, please raise your hand. And I think there's a question directly for you, Enzo. Could you share, based on your experience, the feedback and demand you're seeing from feed producers regarding the GFLI certification? And then there's a second part, but I'll let you respond to that first.
Yes. So before before the certification, what we had was just like the result of our LCA. So we are presenting how much each product emits in terms of carbon. But most of our customers were asking for typically an external audit of this data. So most of the customers asked for it. So, and what we had actually two options. Either we published a research paper on our LCA with the external review, or we went through the GFLI database branded data certification. We decided to go with the GFLI branded data process because actually it's our customers are using the database, so it's quite useful for them to have in the database InnovaFeed product directly in, and they can directly use it in their LCA evaluation.
Great.
I think there was a second question about the competitive advantage. Yes, actually, not having the data certified prevented us from entering some customers, especially large accounts. So I would say it's a prerequisite to enter some accounts to get audited LCA. So, and GFLI branded data is one of the options you can have to be audited.
Great. That's great to hear. And there's a question now about from Christopher Wheatley saying, when do you predict ingredients that fall into the additives bracket, such as magnesium phosphate, etc., that are often included in minerals and premixes, will have a value in the database? And I know, well, I'll ask Claudia if she has. I know we've received a number of requests or interested parties from the feed additive sector, but maybe you can speak a little bit more to overall interest.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I correctly understand the question, but I will try to answer it. So we have a couple of feed additives already in the database, and you can check which of the ingredients are already in the database. And I think this is a hard one to answer. I think the most important for a company is to see whether there's interest from your clients to have the particular feed ingredient listed in the GFLI database. Yeah, I'm not sure how to predict whether a particular ingredient have added value to the database. In my opinion, each ingredient has an added value, but I don't really have a particular answer to that. I don't know if you have anything, Delaney.
It may be, and Christopher, feel free to raise your hand if you want, if we're not answering the question properly. But I think I interpreted your question as, will there be data included in the database from the sector? And as Claudia mentioned, we do have some. I know that there are other companies that are interested, that are in different phases of kind of working with Claudia to figure out if they proceed or when they proceed. It's also, I think, a question being discussed at a sector level. So I'm not sure where you are geographically, but I know there's at the IFIF and FIFANA level, their members are thinking about this from together in terms of how the approach that the sector will take. But not just in Europe, I think as a sector globally, just how they'll approach branded data and sectoral data. But as Claudia said, we do already have some in the database.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I think it would be really beneficial to have more feed additives included in the database, because we do have some, but not a lot. So we can't cover all feed additives available yet in the database. So we're really happy to have more feed additives included.
Okay, good. We managed to answer Thanks. No, it's a good, and I'll just add, since I don't see another question for the moment, feel free, everyone, to add something in the chat if you like. But I will just add that I know that some potential branded data participants, not just from the feed additive sector, but the ones I'm thinking about are from that sector. We're asking about, the need to publish on the GFLI database or make the data available immediately. And as Claudia mentioned, it is something that we're asked that the data provider can make the data available in the database, or they can also be listed as having completed the process and having become GFLI branded data certified, but they can opt to control the sharing of that information. So that was something that was a point of concern for some people in terms of confidentiality or how they could share the data. Of course, as Claudia said, we would love as much data as possible to come into the database, but we understand that some companies might want to be the ones in charge of sharing their data directly, and that is possible. You can take charge of that. Peter has come back to us with a review of the costs. So the total cost we consider should be the GFLI fee, which really covers the internal review, right, Claudia, and other maintenance costs, but mainly to cover the internal review, the external reviewer, and the cost to revise existing LCA if it doesn't meet the GFLI requirements. Is there anything missing from that list?
No, I don't think so. I would only add for the third part about the cost to revise existing LCA. That applies if you already have your LCA available, but if you're really at the beginning point and you need to hire an LCA consultant, then of course those costs for hiring the LCA consultant to collect the data and model the data should also be considered. And also good to know is that the branded data has a validity of 2 years. So after that, it should be updated because the time representativeness decreases, which also decrease the data quality rate. So you should also consider costs in the future to update your branded data sets.
Great. I don't see and you do feel free to ask a question verbally if you prefer. Otherwise, what do you think, Claudia? I don't see any more questions coming in.
No, me neither.
One's questions up front. I'll just give somebody one more a few more seconds to see if anyone else comes in with a question. Or if there anything that I was just reading another. No, okay, we answered that one. Well, if there's no more questions here, no raised hands. Geez, I can't see everyone. Claudia, do you see any raised?
No, I don't see any raised hands.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to cut us off 3 minutes early, but if we don't see any more questions popping up or any raised hands, that we could go ahead and close the webinar and thank. Let's see. The cost for 1 to 5 is each, or for up to 5 reviewed. Maybe you can show that table again.
Oh, it's for up to 5 ingredients. So for 1 ingredient, you pay the same price as when you apply for 4 or 5 ingredients. So the costs are not per ingredient, but it's for up to 5 ingredients. It would be for a member 3,000 euros and for a non-member 5,000, for example. And this table is also available on the website. And no, I see the question, is it time bound? No, we don't really have a specific time frame. We do prefer if you apply for multiple data sets or ingredients to receive all information at the same time, because that also makes it easier for the LCA, for our LCA consultant to perform the review. But yeah, we have some companies going through the process within 2 months. We have some that take over a year. So if we receive an update every now and then about the status of the LCA study, then we're totally fine.
Okay, good. Thanks for that, Claudia. Okay. Last call for any other questions.
1 more minute.
1 more minute. Ask Enzo one last question about it. Okay. Okay, so I think well, if anyone, you can still jump in while I'm thanking everyone. But yeah, I think really thank you to, well, of course, to Claudia and Enzo for all the information, and to all of you who have taken the time to join, ask questions. Really appreciate your interest. And as we said, if you have any other questions that occur to you later, or after you, as Enzo said, after you look through the information on our website, please really don't hesitate to reach out to Claudia or to any of us on the Secretariat, but eventually it will be Claudia who's able to help you the most through this process. So we really thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.